Hi, friends. This is Sungshim Loppnow, and what a privilege it is to have her. She is one of the main engineers, and I understand the main engineer of Immanuel journaling, having spent a lot of time taking in the information, but at the same time, loving how to give this out as a tool, how to give in the Immanuel approach, or a way to connect with Immanuel as a tool to those who can do it at any time, which is one of the reasons why I love it too. So, Sungshim, would you tell everyone what your life looks like right now?
Oh, right now, I live in California, LA area. I have two kids, 13 and 11. They are going to be turning 14 and 12. I have a husband, John. We met at graduate school, like studying marriage and family therapy. I came to America at the age of 29 as an international student. I couldn't speak English really that well, so it was not a good idea to get married to non-Korean. Jokingly, but it's a joke, but also it's not joke. So anyway, we married, lived so for 19 years, and small yet full. I feel like life is always vivid and colorful, and I love it. Yeah.
Oh, that's so good. I love all the stories that must be inside of what you just said about marrying someone who doesn't speak Korean and marrying into a different culture. Oh my goodness. That was like a baptism of fire right there.
What was I thinking?
That it's the dopamine rush, right? Being in love.
Or I was thinking, back then people say, do not make a decision because you felt probably very lonely. And I hated that. Looking back, I think that's what it was. I felt very lonely and I needed someone that I can share life probably way more desperately than before. But I'm wondering if I didn't have that season, I'm not sure I would be in touch with my true need for another human in my life. So it's beautiful at the end, but I think the definitely beginning was a rough patch, like rough.
Beautiful, right?
Yeah. Yes.
So tell me how you got in touch with Jim Wilder. Kitty told me a little piece of the story that you spent a couple hours, you and your friend Anna, perhaps, spent a couple hours with them just downloading information. And then out of that, developing the Immanuel journaling. But maybe you have a different way that you see it or a different way that you tell the story.
So how Immanuel journaling is developed.
Right.
So I think I have to give credit to Carl Lemon, the Immanuel approach. So back then, I don't remember when, back then.
And we're talking about Dr. Carl Lemon.
Yes, correct. He had a lot of articles, free articles that you guys can read, right? So then my husband, John, downloaded all this thing, and then I still have that original binder. He put it in a binder, and I'm just reading about brain science and what Immanuel approach looks like. Back then he didn't say approach, but anyway, so I'm just learning about it, and in that he's talking about Jim Wilder, but I didn't know Jim Wilder then. Just like learning so much, or I don't know which way. Now I think about it, that's not sequentially. That's not even true, whichever. I think Jim Wilder first or Carl Lemon, but in terms of writing access, I had a lot of access to him because he had all the resources available.
Right.
So as I was reading, and then I really liked that. How can I make it available for my church people? So my church people was Korean American. So Koreans are notorious for not sharing their, world with others. Because those who know Asian culture a little bit, it's a very shame-based, meaning like it's saving face is very important in our culture. So you can see that especially the important yet negative or big, or we consider it's not something you should talk about outside home. I'm sure that in America too, but I'm saying it in Asia, it's very, very dominant. So then when I interact with these Korean American friends at our church, I noticed that same. Because I grew up in Korea, so I thought that Korea is bad. So I thought that America here, those Korean Americans are better. But actually, almost I find them, sorry, Korean American out there, but worse.
More extreme into that part of their culture?
Because maybe their desire to maintain their original culture, so their parents' generation when they immigrated, so that they are more tight and more closed up. I noticed that. So then almost when I came in, let's say 2000-ish, that I interact with them at in LA area, Korea moved on. But I felt like this little group of immigrant, this subculture, Korean Americans, just like feels like to me more closed and then not being able to really share.
Yeah,
that was like eye-opening, and it was very frustrating. So
for someone like yourself who was going into marriage and family therapy, who was open and desiring of authentic relationships, that felt like oil and water. It sounds like.
Yes. And then
probably.
Yeah, so as I share, I can see that the emotional health, those things we can understand in our head, but in reality, being able to authentically share our experience with one another. And then so it's not there, but I understand in their prayer life, they didn't have that either. I mean, or including me, where I came from and all these things. So that as I learn about Immanuel approach, Carl Lemon, all that, or Jim Wilder, all the materials, and now just I was this on mission. How can I make it easy for them to understand? The reason is that some people go to therapy, because, they are educated, they are more like Americans, so they are open. But even now, Korean Americans or Korea, we really don't see therapy as a way that you get to know yourself or explore. It's a very, very limited than just the dominant culture here. So then they will not go to therapy, number one. Even though they go to therapy, now they only talk about it over in a therapy room, but not in their prayer life, or I don't see the coherence. So then I'm thinking, how can I help my people, initially my people, Korean people, to authentically come to God? So I think the whole idea behind was, if therapists, I am limited and evil or wicked, I want to give a good gift to my client. Each client comes in, I want to give a good gift. One of them is attunement. Just my whole presence. I wanted to really make myself available for their experiences so that I can see them, so that they felt heard and understood, and they feel empowered. So let's say if limited human being I am as a therapist wanting to do that, how much more our Father, and also He's called as a wonderful counselor, will have that. So that was my just simple hypothesis.
Oh, I love that. And it reminds me of the Sermon on the Mountain. The Sermon on the Mount, where He says, if your Father knows how to give good gifts to you, how much more your Heavenly Father. So just knowing His character.
Yes. So then from there, I was thinking, if therapist does A, B, and C, I believe in my heart, God will do more. It must be God's character. It's not psychology. So then He must be the best counselor out there. So then if therapists offer this, I I'm sure God does it. So that was my belief to begin with. Then as I was just thinking about it, I remember there was a Carl Lemon's attunement. So I think there's a one line or something, when we receive perfect attunement, we feel seen, we feel heard, we feel cared for, or something like that. But I was able to think about, oh, that sounds so familiar, like Exodus 3.
Yes.
And then God sees the suffering of people. God hears the outcry of this Israelite. And then he says, I know they are suffering. Other versions say, I understand.
Mm-hmm.
And then I will deliver them. So when I grew up in church, so like that, just like, whoa, what about that must be God's character. Even when they were so despaired, completely feeling sad and forgotten. This is what God is telling Moses, that this is who I am.
Yes.
So then that's where just simple idea came, like, what if I now hear God saying to me, just like the way that he's telling Moses about Israelites, almost that he's telling him, this is how I interact with my children. I see them. I hear all their cry. I know they're suffering. And then I will do what I promised to do. So then I put down, I can see you, I hear you. Like, so what if I try to do that? So before the book came out, in my church Sunday school class, I decided to do it. And then, tada, amazing things were happening. People were just like, oh, I don't know. I have a Christian education background. So I thought, okay, so interactive gratitude, like, was easy. So like, how can those are all influenced by Jim Wilder. Because when I was learning from Jim Wilder, I learned about the capacity, the importance of joy, importance of this growing capacity. So as a therapist, we delve into the pain so quickly, but then he was the one who gave me this like new framework of importance of staying in joy and growing our capacity. So the gratitude was easy. They were talking about joy, but then I jokingly said, like, that's too hard for people. What's appreciation? Like, I think the Christian will understand thankfulness. So then we'll just have them do their regular practice, gratitude, and then now hear from God. So then I have them do that. And then the I can see you, I hear you, that part, some sort of like pain. I originally designed it that way. And I was so shocked how much they are willing to write. So then originally what I did was I have them do it every day at home. So I provided a kind of like class outline. So every day they have to write interactive gratitude. So I will do it a couple weeks on interactive gratitude.
Oh, that's a great idea. Yeah.
Yeah. So then they do, and then small groups, so that they send it to each other. So we all read it. So then you are just reading it, just you amplify. Oh, this person is even the day that I didn't write, like I can read somebody else, my small group, the Sunday class. So then I say at the end, when you show up for the class, you print out. Back then we didn't have much like a phone. It's almost like maybe 10 years ago or even more. So then why don't you print it out? So they all bring with their own entry, one entry they choose, because supposedly they were supposed to do it every day. And then they bring it and they read it out loud. And then I facilitated, just be quiet, whatever that we, as a therapist, how to facilitate a group in a safe way. So then I did it, and it was good. People really loved it. And then after the 3 weeks, and then now I'm asking them to do thought rhyming part. Back then we didn't have the name. And then I was so shocked how real they were sharing in their journal. And then again, same, I just have them just read it out loud, no comment, nothing. And then now we have a small group, how to facilitate a small group guideline, so that we know even how to do it. But back then we just like what I tried. Then I did it like a couple years like that, just like always each semester when church offers Sunday class, I offer that class. So then I got this like sense that, oh, this is working. And then by then I was in a relationship with Jim Wilder, Anna and I are really close friend and roommate, and John was the one who brought Immanuel journaling, and Jim, not Immanuel journaling, Immanuel approach, Carl Lemon, and Jim Wilder thing was the John's idea that, oh, there is something so good, why don't you study about it?
Right.
So then, and then Anna is the one, why I appreciate her so much is that she and I are really good friends. So when me and Anna went to learn things from Jim Wilder, you are supposed to actually sit in appreciation when you interact with God. That's the very just revolutionary thought that I learned from Jim Wilder. And we were in a class with Jim, and we are learning almost like Immanuel prayer. It was a group setting. Jim was testing it out, how to really develop this class in a group setting. So then we were guinea pig and we were doing it. And then she and I will attend together. I can sit, yes, I am able to sit in appreciation place, but then Anna cannot. Anna say, I'm always having a hard time. What do you mean by this, Sungshim? Why you can do it? Why I cannot do it? She's always lamenting. And then I know her background. So I feel so tender-hearted towards her. Like, gosh, like I feel like she needs God more than me. I feel like, but why she cannot do it? Mm-hmm. And then she always this question to Jim and me, why we have to take out all this pain story? Like, I have so much pain I want to share, like, but when we're in the class, we cannot share that. Like, so she will ask the question, or she will, on the way going there, on the way coming home, she and I will have this conversation. Struggling. And I really want to give her a good gift too. Like, God is so good. So then I said, Anna, why don't you try this? I'm doing this at church. Why don't you try it? It was very early on. She tried it very early on. Then, tada, she's saying that, now I feel seen by God.
Oh, wow. So tell me a little bit more. What was it that made the difference for Anna? Was it writing and the integrating of her brain through the process of writing? What was it?
So she and I, we always have that same conversation.
Sure.
Why you worked? She's saying, like, why you worked? And number one, like you said, she always journal. So then
as a journaler. Okay.
I think, I forgot the Jack. There's the person who talked about the importance of writing. Right. So I think there's something about it. Writing them down is that itself, instead of just staying in your head and interacting with God, writing them down help her to slow her whole thing down, her system.
Okay, so her brain can stop ruminating.
Right. That's our speculation. That's me and Anna's speculation. Right. Her racing thoughts, you cannot stop it. Because even though she tried to focus on something good God has done, but you are doing it in your mind, and then her part of brain, this racing thought, like, limbic system, whatever, her emotions are just constantly over her. So then she cannot stay on it. But then when she writing them down, almost that focus, she's able to really just only think about that writing, the one word at a time. So then that help her to, that's our speculation.
Yeah.
That help her to slow down. Her whole, this racing thought slow down. So made her, when you do the relational skill, the Thrive training, being able to quiet is a necessary skill, joy and quiet. Right. But she cannot quiet.
Okay.
Because of that.
Right.
But then the whole writing process helped her to slow down.
Right.
So in the beginning, she began like that individually, but what we did as a community was so good was we began, as soon as I saw that it was so good at church, I gathered my fuller friends, meaning like Anna is marriage and family therapy study, John, there are a couple more. So then...
So you were going to Fuller Seminary at that time. Is that what you said?
We already graduated, but I have friends who stay around here that I have friends. Mm-hmm. So then I asked them, can we practice this? I find it really helpful. Mm-hmm. I tried it at church. It's so good. How could we build a community around it? Because I want to know you, but then our conversation is not as deep as it can be. So if we read it out loud, and then those things are all, these ideas are coming from Jim Wilder, meaning they wrote a little share Immanuel, little booklet. And then over there, it says it 3 steps: sitting in appreciation, interacting with God, and then share with other people. So that's what they say. So then I got an idea from there. Okay, I think it's important. We just write, but then we have to read it out loud, share. But over there, there's
their model, and you just place the Immanuel journaling straight into the middle.
Right, right. But then they were saying sharing is just because they interact with God. But this one is sharing is easy, meaning you already write them down. So you read it out loud. You can summarize it, but we had an intention to just simply presenting it as it is. Right. And then since I studied John and I studied spiritual direction, I knew the power of just holding the space for people so that they will be encountered by God in their quiet space. So that's we learned that from, but there was a much more in my mind. How can I really create that space? Was informed by spiritual direction study. So then in the beginning, why it's important for people to have almost get in a habit of regularly interacting with God in that manner is that initially Anna, so when she just like, oh my gosh, now for the first time I want to read the Bible because I want to get to know God. Like just like nice a new revival of things were happening in Anna's life.
Right.
Then we began meeting at this dining table. And then we're just mind out, like it's crazy. So why Anna experienced so much transformation is we always talk about it. It's because initially it was a community. It's not just individually, it's really good. But originally this was designed to actually practice and build almost group identity. Our individual identity is too weak. We need to be, being a human being means that we cannot separate ourselves from others. So then maybe over 3 years, every Monday, we get together in the morning. And then we have all the evidence of our journals and we just read. Write. We just gather and just be quiet and then just write. Mm-hmm. Instead of the Sunday class they were doing it at home and do that. But we realized we are so not good about doing it alone. So then why don't we come together? Anyway, we want to see each other because it's a good friend. So then we wanted to see each other. So we come, and then there is a simple joy building, and then you've been quiet. So John is really good at quieting. So he will facilitate some sort of quieting. It didn't say it in the book. So if I want to write more, I want to really write the more sequentially, what we really do, like quiet. And then you write individually. Now you break into the group and then you read it out loud. But for us, it was 7, and then we just read it. And then from there, I open it to the public. So then we did it another 3 years. While that book was out and all that, we did it at an Episcopal church near here. And anybody could come, and then it was the same format, even the newer person, brand new, or anybody. And we do the same thing, and at the end we just break into 3 or 4, and then they just read it out loud, and then we just give them a little how to do the group process and come back, and then in a big group, one last round of what is that God wants us to know. So it's all written down. So how we do them, the small group. Yeah. I don't know whether I answered
so much. Yeah. I love this so much. One of the things that occurred to me too about what happened in my small groups was that we were given a fuller view of who God was because of the way he was interacting with each person. And all of a sudden, our view of God expanded. One of the women said that it was like Aslan grew before her eyes.
Mm-hmm. Beautiful.
Isn't that precious?
Yes.
The other one that I was thinking of with that is that, obviously as we read out loud too, it has a chance to sink deeper into our minds and come and rest within us. I do love what you're saying about needing to add the quieting piece. That's something that we do in my spiritual direction setting so much that I just did that automatically. But I think you're right. That
I do the same. It's just like you intuitively knew the importance of it. I think John did it. John he studied before me, and who he is kind of embodied the quietness. So then he was able to just people love that time the most. It looked like when we meet at church in the Joy building, and then we quiet together in a big group. And then at the end we quiet and then end, and people just really love that. And then when we are getting together like that for 3 years at the church, everything was in silence. Except for the time people interact in the beginning, and at the end, even transitioning, everybody was encouraged not to use the word, just being silent. So that one is again informed by spiritual direction, our value of silence, because we are so dominantly relying upon words.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Wow. I feel like this is a feast already. Can you tell me a little bit more? What I understand with interactive gratitude is gratitude is right next to relationship in our prefrontal cortex or in our brain. But tell me more about a really strong interactive gratitude. Do you do a new one every time, or do you have specific ones, specific encounters with Christ that you keep going back to over and over?
So I think, Summer, when I hear you, the common question I receive from people who studying life model works material, what I really love about Jim is he's not a guy who hold on to his right. He really let that go, and then someone like me or somebody else like really have their own flavor. That's again another word that I learned from them. So when you learn about life model works things, this person uses the interactive gratitude. Other things talk about appreciation. So when I even hear you, I know there's all there because you study a bit and then you kind of know. So according to them, appreciation is the first concept I learned, meaning appreciation is like what you are saying. It's different than gratitude. Appreciation, according to Jim Wilder's study, is the sense of, this. So it's like why he's saying it is when you study brain science, when you are able to detect your body sensation, and it means that your higher functional part is opened up. That's another sign that you know that you are integrated. If you don't know, your heart is beating, but you have no idea. It's already disintegration. So it's so much there in a simple exercise that Jim Wilder is talking about, is that when we are able to get in touch with like my body saying, that's why he talks about mango. He loves mango. So he said, when he think about mango, that, so good. Like that means then you are now feeling good, not in your head, feels so tasty, so refreshing.
So the neurobiology, it's spreading through your neurobiology. And the image, perhaps, I do a lot of work in sanctified imagination, kind of like the Immanuel moment, or we call it safe place. I do a lot of Ignatian imaginative prayer with scripture. So when people have that moment where they're looking into Jesus' eyes and he is blessing the children and he's blessing them.
Right.
He's
Right.
looking into their eyes and
Yes.
blessing them.
Yes.
That's a moment of appreciation.
Yes. Appreciation needs to be felt in your body. According to, if I really like summarize the essence of it, Christian can give thanks, but you don't need to feel anything in your body. Because I can say that God saved me. Even now I can say it. I know it. And then if I can marinate it, I can get to the place of really feeling it in my heart and body. But I can say to you that I am grateful that God saved me. But it doesn't mean that I feel it right now in my body or in my even emotion. I cognitively, I'm saying I'm thankful.
Right. So it is a truth or an experience that has so connected with our hearts that we're feeling it in our neurobiology, and there's that sense of 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 joy, of connection, of rest, of the serotonin flowing through. That's really interesting. That's the best way I've heard someone explain it yet. So I was eating a strawberry with my daughter from
Right.
the garden, and the moment of the tasting it, and it's running down my thumb, and then my daughter walks through the gate, and she's my height now. She's 13 years old, and she looks at me and she says, "Are there strawberries, Mom? Are there strawberries that are ripe?" And so I've got a couple in my hand, and I offer them to her, and she's tasting and enjoying this moment out in the garden together. And that was one of those moments that I just, as I experience that, I see the Lord's goodness in so many ways. I'm tasting his goodness. I'm sharing his goodness with my daughter. I'm smelling the goodness of the garden, that type of thing.
Mm-hmm.
So when I go back there in my mind by writing about it, there's an immediate connection with the senses, as well as with my body. Does that fit?
Yes, very much so. So when I heard you ask the question, I can see that, do people have those appreciation stories? So that's what Jim Wilder is saying. So your story, he will say, "What? How would you name that summer?" He will ask that. So you will say strawberry, or strawberry with my daughter, or like the name. So he's saying it, name that, so that you don't need to tell the whole story, but in your mind, when you see the strawberry with my girl, then automatically your brain will have the pathway to get to the place of, like you say, senses, like I will feel it in my body. But like, it's not gonna right away, it just, you need to marinate. That's the brain is a negativity bias. So that appreciation and those good things, God's goodness, comes into our world all the time, because of the brain's negativity bias. It's not stick.
And ruminating that we're so used to doing.
Negative things.
So it's so hard to get off of that track.
Yeah, the brain science, they are saying it's one of the term that I really like this. Brain is like a the Velcro, and then the positivity, it's like a Teflon, so it doesn't stick. So then when you think about John Gottman's marital researcher saying it's 21 ratio if you want to have a good marriage, meaning that 20 good interaction, there's a one negative interaction. If it's a 1-to-1, it's the statistically either they get divorced or unhappily married. So when you even see those kind of like 40 years of study, like, oh, you can see why. So that's how yeah. So anyway, appreciation story, like what you originally asked was, okay, have those, like what you said, like what you describe. So just have a couple of them like that. Or sometimes Jim Wilder encouraged people to write down those titles on a 3x5 card, 3x5 card. And then you just put it on somewhere and just like really read them through, just title by title, and just sit in there. And that's how you really marinate your brain.
So we're cultivating joy
Yes.
and
Yes.
cultivating appreciation
Yes.
by you're inviting us to write down kind of the titles of highly saturated moments of joy and connection.
Yeah. But he called it, if you study more Jim Wilder stuff, he called it interactive moment. So there's a two different, he distinguished just like a simply, he can just feel the goodness of God felt in my body. It can be just strawberry. But the interactive gratitude is like, but then you sense God's delight. Like, so you even detect God's presence there, then he called it interactive moment. Earlier, it's just like anything good. You just like hot day, you have a cold water and it's so good. And just even enjoy that. That's appreciation. And then interactive moment is that, but felt like God is right there. So he makes it different.
Here's another question. Is this a present moment experience? You know how hard it is to learn to be a present moment person and truly cultivating the senses, truly cultivating the gift of the present moment. Mm-hmm. It sounds to me like almost all of that list mm-hmm. is going to be a present moment experience.
Yes.
Where we are awake to the goodness of God.
Yes. So then I think that's the goal. And then what you are describing is that you practice it that way so that your eyes are open to see it every moment. But there is a big moments like that, what you said, and then you gather them. And then in a sense, you are training yourself to become that kind of person who's fully awake to see the color and smell, like all these things, because God is present right now, each moment, each breath of our life. So I think that's what so then you asked, then what's interactive gratitude? When I practice it, why I said interactive gratitude was, so it was already present before I talked about interactive gratitude. Right. I love that, what I learned from Jim Wilder. Funny thing is that appreciation, the feeling in your body, felt in my body, I noticed that a lot of people cannot do it. Mm-hmm. Like especially Anna, like when pain is too overwhelming, right. You don't feel it. Right. Even though you know it, it's just so short-lived. You cannot have, because the pain is just overwhelmingly present in your nervous system or in your cell, in your body. So then that's where I felt like, you know what? Then at least I can begin my gratitude from cognitive level. Just start writing. You don't need to feel anything. I'm saying you don't need to feel anything. Just write down what you are grateful. And then that again, writing them down, slow you down. And then I will say, it's not in the book, but I will say, be curious. Why this gift from God has meaning to you. Then as you're writing them down, initially it was just like, okay, God, thank you for the nice weather. You don't feel anything. Do you feel it in your body? No, just like I know that that's my health, my children, they say it. And then writing them down and saying, why this particular gift touches me today. Mm-hmm. Maybe it didn't touch, but then I'm saying it since I'm writing them down, like why it touches me. With, again, these moments of pausing, the moments of quieting. Mm-hmm. Now you are taking your own soul deeper. Mm-hmm. Then while you are writing, almost like I wasn't grateful. I mean, I know I should be grateful. That's why I'm writing them down, but I don't know what it means to me. But as you are quietly be inquisitive, curious. Curiosity is another way of knowing that your prefrontal cortex is open. Right. Open and curious and accepting and loving. So then I just be curious about it, and then it just really started coming down from head to just slowly coming down. And that's the beauty of just doing everyday interactive gratitude. Even though I don't have it, but intentionally I put my just humble attempts, then in a sense God awakes me to this appreciation moment. then sometimes I just say it, but then when God say back to you, that's when I like, oh gosh, I didn't know that. Like, oh, God loves me this way. And then, like, doesn't make sense. So interactive gratitude, the benefit of interactive gratitude is you don't even need to feel, but just begin where you are. Just from your head knowledge, just truth. And then be curious and have God respond back to you. So I would say that's the contribution of interactive gratitude.
Oh, that's so good. I feel like we could do this on every single one of the stages, and I would love it. And maybe someday we'll do that, right? But this is enough, and it's so good, and I'm so grateful. I have one more question, and it is about how you know in your body that it's time for you to do Immanuel journaling.
You know, Summer, almost every day I do it though. That's my daily just interaction with God. So, there are days that I don't do it, but almost all the time. Many days I do it many times. And people think that how often do I do it? It's like my daily interaction with God. Either just interactive gratitude alone every day or multiple times a day. Because when I lose peace, but I had a space, then I will do it. But if I don't have it, I'll do it in my mind. But literally I have on a computer, it has its own section. So always I date IJ on even in the morning, June 26th. Like it just, so my answer is do it as many times as you want. It's like interacting with God. Like, why not? Sometimes you do it with the Bible so that you don't need to always just do the painful. Doing with the joyful things or doing with the Bible study with the Immanuel journaling format. It's like, the St. Ignatius, so I will do it that way. Since I'm familiar with that, I can see you reading the Bible. And then just you think about this woman who caught in adultery. And then you see your heart, you were holding your breath, just thinking about her. Like, just I will do it like that.
Wow, interesting.
Yeah. And I have one writing like that, and I read it at a women's retreat, and it was really powerful. I did it, Immanuel journaling, from her point of view. I act like I was her, and then I write down, this is what I saw. I can see you, my child. I get teared up as I just thinking about it, like just from her perspective. I hear you that why I did that or why I'm here. Like it just, I remember reading it out loud in front of our church women who was just, we can do that from that character's point of view, how God will say that to them. So that's another way of utilizing Immanuel journaling in light of Bible.
No, that's beautiful. One of the women in our group had been struggling with a friend. I'm sure you've heard this before, but struggling with someone in their company. And she did Immanuel journaling from his point of view, like for him. And it totally changed her vision of him to where she could be in a place of compassion and care for him, and think through Jesus' thoughts with love towards him. That I thought that was so profound, and it sounds similar to me of what you're saying of this precious woman who was caught in adultery. Yeah. Thank you so much, Sungshim. This was super helpful, and I just adore your smile, and I could just sense that all of the beautiful work that you and Jesus do together with other people, but also just you and he, and how it just radiates off of you.
Well, Summer, thank you so much for spreading the goodness of God to your influence, your people, that you use your influence to bring goodness of God. I personally thank you for you doing that work. So.
Oh, it's such a treat. Thank you for making it available to us and spreading the news to us. I like being one of those Daughters of Zion who climb the mountains and tell good news. This is good news.
Oh, beautiful.
This is good news. Thank you so much, Sungshim.
Thank you, Summer.
It's so good to be with you.
Yep.